Hey, welcome back to the Ernest P YouTube channel. We're here with another episode of Roadside Rescue. So we've got a customer that called about his Mini Cooper burning a lot of what he presumes is oil. There was a lot of white smoke coming out. We spoke to him about it. He said he thought it maybe smelled like oil, but he wasn't too sure. So we just got up here at his house. We're gonna take a look at his Mini Cooper and see if we can figure out what's burning and why is all that white smoke coming out of the exhaust. Come along. All right, here we are. So it could be a few things. It's going to be either coolant or oil. The oil can come from a number of places. So what I did first before it got real hot was went ahead and tested the cooling system with a block test here. This will test for a bad head gasket. If the head gasket's bad, it could be burning antifreeze or coolant, and you could smell that out of the exhaust. I could smell moisture in the exhaust, but it was probably just condensation. So what you do is you fill this up with a blue liquid, you put it in the top of the coolant reservoir there, and then you put this little siphon on the top. It pulls the air up through this fluid, and if the fluid detects any combustible gases or exhaust gases, it'll turn that fluid yellow. It stayed blue. I ran it for about 10 minutes and I could tell it got warm because it started to steam up in there and it stayed blue. So I'm fairly certain it's not a head gasket. I wasn't sure if it was in the first place, but that's the best thing to do before the engine got warm, and then we couldn't open the cooling system again until it cooled down. So right now we're looking at probably the most likely culprit is it being oil. It's either coming from the turbo oil lines, which are common to fail, or it might be oil from somewhere inside the motor. So we might have, bad rings or, low compression. So what we're going to do is put a compression tester on these cylinders. We'll test each one and make sure that they have the proper amount of compression. If they do, then we've narrowed it down to the turbo line. So we can take a peek at those, tighten them down, or look at any sort of internal failure possibilities and get with the customer on what his options are to replace that. So we're going to go ahead and do a compression test, and we'll see how these cylinder compressions look. Okay, so we've done a bit of testing. I didn't get most of it on camera because I was just kind of digging into it. It had good compression, and the turbo lines don't look like they're leaking, as well as I pulled the intake plenum, and there wasn't any oil buildup in there. So if it is leaking oil inside of the turbo, it's only going out the exhaust. It is intermittent because I couldn't even get it to smoke a lot of white smoke, but the lack of oil residue inside the intake leads me to believe that it's probably one of the interior issues that these engines have on the engine, which would be valve seals. No, I didn't do a leak down test on that, nor would that be very conclusive, but we have pretty much eliminated everything else. So those valve seals are a pretty common issue. There is a way to test it I've read about. I don't know if I'd recommend it, running a heavier oil in the engine and seeing if that stops, because that oil has a thicker viscosity. That's also what leads me to believe that that's probably the issue, because it only does it apparently when it's really hot. So that being said, if it was leaking through the turbo, it would be doing that consistently. And since it only does it when it's really warm, that viscosity of the oil is going to be really thin, and it's going to leak past those valve seals. So we'll go ahead and talk to the customer about it, but it's probably one of those issues that's going to cost more than it's worth to fix. Looking at a rebuild, at least a rebuilt head. And so he may just want to deal with it for a little while, but I'll give him the options and see what he says. So thanks for watching. This is your Ernest P YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, please like and subscribe. Check out our other videos. Thanks for all the support. Subscribe. Have a good day. Peace out. All right, so we're on our way back out. We talked to the guy. Obviously, rebuilding that head's quite a bit of money, and for what it's worth, right now he doesn't want to do it, and I didn't strongly recommend it either, because just a little bit of burning oil when it's real hot versus $1,600 in rebuilding that head, not worth it. So until it has any further issues, he's just gonna deal with it as it is. So not a big deal. If it was my own vehicle, I'd do the same, but just good to know what he thinks about it, I guess, for everybody else to know what he decided doing. But this is the Ernest P YouTube channel. Thanks again for watching. As always, peace out.